What the is leadership? Thought-provoking conversations with expert leadership scholars, exceptional leadership practitioners, and other extraordinary individuals. Good day. My name is Jonathan Kroll, and I'm the Executive Director and a lead trainer of the Leadership Trainer Certification Program. And I'm so excited to be having a conversation with Doug Kirkpatrick today. He is an author, consultant, a leadership coach, and he's one of the global gurus on self-management. So, Doug, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jonathan. Quite an introduction. Very appreciative. Thank you very much.
Well, and I'm so fortunate because I get to tap into your wisdom as you're also a board member for the sponsoring organization of the Leadership Trainer Certification Program. So thank you so much for that as well.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. And it's been great to get to know you and all the fellow board members as well. Great.
Awesome. So as we start these video interviews, the question is, what the leadership?
So I think leadership is causing others to do something, influencing others in order to do something that you desire them to do. I think that's kind of the nutshell definition of leadership. But obviously from there, it's a hugely expansive topic, as I'm learning from books like the Northhouse book
Yes.
on leadership, which I just got the day before yesterday, and it's a little bit intimidating, but there are obviously entire libraries of books on leadership, and one must be thoughtful about what resources one chooses to avail yourself of to figure this big subject out, because it's a huge, huge topic.
Yeah. Well, and one of the questions that's posed in that text, and is really a conversation within the leadership community broadly, is if leadership is about influence, does it matter if it's for good or if it's just any kind of influence?
Well, it certainly matters. I mean, Adolf Hitler was a leader, but he wasn't an ethical leader. And so in my view of leadership, ethics is a huge component. It is one of the most important components of true leadership. And so leadership without ethics is evil, it's sterile, it's devoid of goodness for humanity. It's not good. You could still perhaps call it leadership, but its value is extremely negative and should be avoided at all costs.
Yeah. Well, so how did you come to that conclusion that there needs to be this ethical, moral foundation that if it's going to be leadership, it needs to be for good rather than just for any kind of influence?
So, great. Thank you. Great question. And to answer that question, I have to go to my mentor and friend, Peter Kestenbaum. So Peter Kestenbaum, for those who haven't heard of him or are not aware of him, is an American philosopher. He grew up in Nazi Germany. So he was exposed to some of the greatest evil in the history of the world. His family was Jewish. He was an only child. And his parents fled Nazi Germany in 1937, just ahead of the Holocaust. And they ended up in Venezuela. And Peter was a very intelligent young man. So as he grew up, reached the age of 16, he went to Stanford University at the age of 16. And he took philosophy and theology and music and physics and a number of other subjects. He ended up getting degrees in philosophy. And he also went to Harvard and other, I think Boston University as well. So he ended up teaching philosophy at San Jose State University for almost 40 years. He was voted one of the best professors in the state of California at that time, which was a great honor. And he has developed into one of the leading visionaries on leadership in the world. He just turned 92 on Monday.
Happy birthday!
Yeah, happy birthday, Peter. He's a great friend. I dedicated my new book, The No Limits Enterprise, to him as a friend and mentor. And on Monday, on his birthday, we were both, of course, sequestered because of the COVID crisis.
Yes.
And I was able to spend 2 hours with him on Monday on a Skype, discussing the deep questions of life and leadership and philosophy. And I think we're going to do a webinar together on those subjects.
Great.
But his experience is vast and deep, and he was the subject of a very influential Fast Company article in 1990 with Polly LaBarre called "Do You Have the Will to Lead?" And great leaders ask great questions like, why am I here on this planet? What is my purpose in being here? What am I being called to do? What is success mean?
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to be a successful human being? Great leaders ask the great questions. And he still consults with leaders, and he has a Custom Bomb Institute in Stockholm, Sweden. And he still has a weekly blog at pib.net, which stands for Philosophy in Business .net. And his model is very simple. It's the most simple and elegant model of leadership I've ever seen. And so here it is in its very simplicity. Calls it the Kestenbaum Leadership Diamond. And the diamond has 4 points. The bottom is the starting point, and the bottom is courage. So courage is about the willingness to stand alone, to take a stand which may not be popular, but which one feels is the right thing to do, to stand in the gap, to have courage, to have fortitude, to take criticism, to expose yourself to unfavorable reviews, and all the rest. It's the willingness to take a stand. It's about one's own inner fortitude, the struggle one has within oneself.
Yeah.
In order to make progress.
And I might add that the questions that you were raising before of essentially who is myself and what gives me meaning and what lights my fire, those deep questions, when we come to know the authentic responses for ourselves, that's where our courage comes from.
Exactly right. Said it very well, Jonathan. Another great source of courage is anxiety. And so, as Peter points out so ably, anxiety is the fuel for courage. And every human being's job in this world is to manage his or her own anxiety in a way that is productive and propels one forward and allows one to be a leader, and in a way that doesn't paralyze you and cause you to retreat and withdraw from the world. So, he says the anxiety is the fuel for courage, and we all have it, and to pretend we don't is folly. So we start with courage, but then as you saw, the top of the pyramid is ethics.
Yes.
So ethics is about others. So courage is about yourself and your own inner fortitude and will. Ethics is about how you care about other people. It's your compassion. It's your familial love. It's your concern. It's largely about coaching and mentoring. It's how removing barriers. Is how can I have a contribution mindset, as Peter Drucker described. It's about that concern for the other that drives an ethical perspective. And the reason he said it opposite from courage is that he says the other job of human beings, and especially leaders, is to manage polarities, what he calls them opposites. And so courage about oneself, ethics is about other people. And so they are set opposite to each other in the diamond, describing a polarity. And he says the job of every leader is to manage polarities. And these are the most important polarities of leadership. And so that's why he calls it the custom bomb leadership diamond. But leaders have to have a capacity to recognize, identify, and manage many polarities that they encounter on a continuous basis. And we can theorize them right off the top of our head. So it's balancing innovation versus execution.
Yeah.
It's balancing short-term versus long-term. It's balancing subjective versus objective. And there are hundreds of thousands, the infinite numbers of polarities.
Sure.
And to the degree a leader can get good at recognizing, identifying, and just accepting, and then working with and managing those polarities of life and leadership, that enables a leader to achieve greatness. So the only other 2 points, the point on the left side of the diamond is reality. And so that's just about recognizing one's constraints, also one's opportunities, one's resource availability, time availability, capacity, energy levels. It's about recognizing politics.
Yeah.
Politics in the office.
Yeah.
Larger, macro political realities and trends and forces that one has to deal with in the world. And he says it's impossible to achieve greatness as a leader unless you have a good grasp of reality.
Yeah.
So if we go back to our evil discussion earlier, you think of Hitler in the bunker in Berlin in April of 1945, ordering young German teenagers into battle, a hopeless attempt to salvage some sense of victory out of inevitable defeat.
Yeah.
He didn't recognize reality until the last possible second when he killed himself. So understanding reality, working with reality is a crucial element of leadership. And as you can see from the diamond, the opposite side of reality, the polarity of reality is vision. And so vision is figuring out, theorizing a desirable future state into which you can invite people to join you on a progression or a journey into that desirable future state. And that's the essence of leadership.
Yeah.
So balancing these poles, these polarities, casting that vision, communicating it, influencing it, role modeling it, all the rest, really the essence of leadership. And the part that I've really come to appreciate over my 30 years at Morningstar and working with self-managed organizations is the power of natural leadership. And that's not command and control. That's not giving orders. That's not authoritarianism or directive leadership. Telling people what to do, I don't even consider that leadership necessarily.
Yeah.
But if you can influence people to follow you into some desirable envisioned future, and you can do that through trust, respect, communication, role modeling, ethics, and presence, then that's called natural leadership. And we think that natural leadership is stronger, better leadership than authoritarian leadership. Authoritarian leadership, command authority, in my worldview, causes leadership muscles to atrophy and get weaker.
Yes.
If I can just tell people what to do and with the expectation that they will jump when I say jump, that doesn't make me a better, stronger leader.
Right.
But if I figured out how to communicate with compassion and ethics and reality and vision and all the rest, and I can influence people to follow me into that desired future, then that's natural leadership, and that's stronger, better leadership, and that causes leadership muscles to get stronger. And so, in a self-managed organization, we think everyone has the capacity to lead and has the opportunity to become a leader. And so we believe in free will. So people may choose to exercise that freedom to become leaders or not. That's their choice. But those opportunities are available to every single person in a truly free, self-managed organization.
Yeah. Well, that notion really resonates with me. I'm an educator by trade, as you know, and we know in education that when students have an opportunity to self-author and experience the education hands-on, rather than just sitting back in a lecture and listening or watching a PowerPoint, the learning increases exponentially. And I think there's a serious parallel between that notion of education and leadership, that when we are in this command and control situation, we're dictating what should be done rather than allowing for the follower or the supporter to really get into it and to understand and how to practice, to experiment and experience leading, and therefore developing their own leadership skills and capacities.
It's so true. And I have a great friend, Rod Collins. He's the author of a book called Wiki Management. Yeah, we just did a webinar together about how managers can manage remote workers for the first time, if that's their new reality. And Rod talks extensively about the power of collective intelligence. The intelligence in an organization is in the network. It's not in one or two or a handful of designated experts. Everything that we act on, all the information we use to make decisions can be improved by tapping and harnessing the power of collective intelligence in a network. And there's a great example of that. James Surowiecki wrote a book called, the name escapes me. It's about the power of collective intelligence. And he describes a story where a U.S. nuclear submarine sank. I think it was in the early 60s. And the captain, who was charged with figuring out where the submarine was located, because it just sent up one little radio signal before it sank and they couldn't find it, he tasked 3 separate teams to approach the problem in 3 completely different ways. And then he took the solutions that these 3 teams had come up with and basically sort of averaged them. And that averaged solution led almost to the exact precise location of the sunken submarine. So, the book is called The Wisdom of Crowds. Just came to me. The Wisdom of Crowds by James Surowiecki, and it has a number of examples like that. So he talks about a state fair where they had a jar full of jelly beans. You're supposed to count how many jelly beans were in the jar. And so they collected, I guess, 800 plus guesses. And when they averaged the guesses, it was almost the exact number of jelly beans in the jar. So tapping the power of collective wisdom in a network is a crucial leadership capacity for the 21st century.
Wow. Well, Doug, thank you so much. What an incredibly informative conversation. And I so appreciate your reflections on what leadership. And of course, if you have anything else you'd like to offer, I want to create a space for you to have the last word.
Thank you. I had a thought, and it sort of escaped me. But I can tell you I enjoyed this 20 minutes, went really fast. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and look forward to our next board meeting.
Yes, great. Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining this conversation on what the leadership is. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to check out leadershiptrainer.org for all of your leadership training, programming, and resources.